My name's Terry Neimeyer. I'm CEO and Chairman of the Board of KCI Technologies. I joined KCI in 1977, fresh out of school, graduated from the University of Delaware, go Blue Hens. Went to work at KCI in Towson, Maryland. Got a master's degree at night at Hopkins. One of the reasons why I worked at KCI is I wanted to get a master's at Hopkins. Did so at night, moved to Delaware in 1980. And before I'd moved to Delaware, I started as a water and wastewater engineer. I wanted to work on the Back River wastewater treatment plant, which is over in Essex, which isn't far from my hometown where I grew up in Dundalk. And Back River was a project I wanted to work on, and darn it, in 1979, I worked on the Back River wastewater treatment plant, converting it from a trickling filter plant that smells a lot to an activated sludge plant, which doesn't smell a lot. And so that was good. But I moved to Delaware after I got married in 1980, right at the same time that all these banks moved to Delaware. KCI had an office in Delaware that was doing site development type of work. And so that office just took off. And we did really well, moving every bank in the country into Delaware, just doing civil engineering for it. So we would design the sites, the parking lots, the handicap spaces, the stormwater management, water and sewer to the building. We're not in the building design, that's an architect's realm. And so Delaware took off, and I was so successful there, they gave me responsibility of all the branch offices of KCI in right around the 1987 time frame. And again, we purchased ourselves in 1988. I was part of the executive team that helped with that purchase. Moved back to Baltimore in 1992 to take over a transportation discipline, which was a public sector based discipline, and did that for 3 years. Became president in 1996. And if you look at the litany of how I had grown through the organization, I had worked in almost every business line the company had. So if there was ever a training ground for being a president, I went through it, but that wasn't the plan when that happened, because they didn't know I was going to get married and move to Delaware and things of that nature. Became CEO in 1999. We expanded our business from being a Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania base to adding the Carolinas, adding Florida, adding Georgia, adding New York, and West Virginia at the time. And we've grown the company since then. We've recently moved into Texas and actually have an office in Tennessee and Indiana at the same time. And so we're expanding geographically, offering civil engineering services, mainly to the public and private sector. And that's where we are here today. You know, the company was founded in 1955 in the basement of a Calvert Street, Baltimore townhome by two gentlemen named Lester Matz and John Childs. And they offered business, civil engineering services to the private sector. So they worked for the development community and the contracting community, and did very well, especially in Baltimore County, where they had a niche business that they could get plans approved and permitted quicker than any other engineering firm in the area in the private sector. They diversified that into a private/public sector firm, 80-20, 80% private, 20% public. And in 1977, that company gets purchased by the Kidde Corporation. Kidde was a large conglomerate out of New Jersey. You would know them by their fire extinguishers. They're still in Home Depot today. You'll see them all over the place. And then in 1987, the Kidde organization is purchased by Hansen. Hansen is a British firm, big conglomerate, owning many companies. Hansen had a reputation of buying a company and selling off assets that they didn't think would meet their profit margins. We were a professional services business, so they made it clear they were going to sell us. And we immediately put our hand up and said, well, let us buy ourselves. They pushed back and said, we don't sell to former owner-operators. We only sell to new businesses. We find we can maximize our return that way. And we said, well, come on, give us a chance. And they said, okay. So what we did is we offered them a price 50% above what the market would have been, which wowed their socks off. And they said, we'll sell. So we bought ourselves from Hansen in 1988, forming the ESOP, employee ownership plan that we had. We became 100% employee owned. We were 80%, as I described before. We became 100% because in 1996, Congress passed a law allowing ESOPs to hold stock in an S corporation. Prior to that, it was prohibited. And in doing so, we created a competitive tax advantage in that you're tax deferred, as S corporations only pay corporate income taxes. If the ESOP owns 100% of the S corp, you literally defer any tax payments until people exit the ESOP. So we don't write checks to the US government immediately. We don't write them to state government immediately. And what they are is they're deferred until you leave the ESOP. By doing so, you capture the cash, you hold on to it, the value of the firm goes up, everybody's happy, and then when you exit the ESOP, you pay it as normal income tax. And because the value has hopefully appreciated due to some good management and good luck, everybody's happy at the end of the day. Government is, individuals are. And in the meantime, you've deferred paying taxes up until you have to exit the ESOP, which is 70 and a half.